today we're going to look at information from a parabola and use that information to write an equation for our parabola. And we are specifically going to be using vertex form. We're going to use vertex form when we know the vertex and we know another point. And we will use intercept form when we know the x-intercepts and we know another point. So in example 1, we are going to do vertex form. The graph shows the parabolic path of a performer who is shot out of a cannon, where y is the height in feet and x is the horizontal distance traveled in feet. Write an equation for the parabola. We'll stop there. That's the big thing, is write an equation of the parabola. So first of all, our vertex is here, 50, 35. The vertex is HK. So our H value is 50 and our K value is 35. So your first step is write the equation in vertex form, putting H and K in the correct place. So y equals A, parentheses, x minus h, our h value is 50. Don't forget the square. The most common mistake is people forget the little square after the parentheses. Plus k, the y value of our vertex is 35. So step 1, write the equation. I know that we don't know A yet, but write the equation filling in H and K from your vertex. Step 2 is use this other point as your X and your Y. So the other point that we know is 0, 15. So I'm going to put 15 in place of my Y. And I'm going to put 0 in place of my x. Some people think, oh, I'll save some time by just plugging everything in all in one step. And if you can keep track of all of that, great. But usually that leads to errors in plugging things in. So I always do first step, just put in your vertex. Our vertex is 50, 35, so get those values put into the equation as your first step. Second step, use your point and plug those numbers in. Now the only thing that we don't know is A, so we can do some of this math and solve this equation and figure out what A is. So in the parentheses, 0 minus 50 is negative 50. Negative 50 squared.
2,500.
2,500. Plus 35. We want to get rid of that addition before we deal with the multiplication, so we would subtract 35 on both sides. So I've got negative 20 equals A times 2,500. How do you undo times 2,500? Divide by 2,500. And you're definitely going to want a calculator for that. So negative 20 divided by 2,500, negative 0.008. Okay. At this point, if you said, I am done, my answer is negative 0.008, you would lose points because the problem asked us to write an equation of the parabola. So we need to go back up to our very first step where all we had in there was the vertex. And now we know what A is. So we're going to rewrite this using our newfound A value. So y equals negative 0.008 times x minus 50 squared plus 35. I'm going to briefly talk about the next part of the problem, but we're really going to get into the next part of the problem tomorrow when we do some word problems. The next part of the problem says, the performer lands in a net 90 feet from the cannon. What is the height of the net? What they want you to do is plug in x equals 90 to find the corresponding height. So you could just take that equation, and you wouldn't even have to show a lot of work with this. Negative 0.008. Instead of our x, we're going to plug in 90. Oops, I want 50 squared, not 20. Plus 35. We plug in x equals 90, and we get a y value of 22.2. So that means after the performer has gone horizontally 90 feet, they will be 22.2 feet high. And if you look at this point right here, look at that height. Does that kind of make sense that it's 22.2? If we had just looked at this graph and guessed, we probably would have guessed 22 or 23. So that does make sense from the picture. For intercept form, we are going to be using the formula A times x minus p times x minus q. Your intercepts are p and q. A meteorologist creates a parabola to predict the temperature tomorrow, where x is the number of hours after midnight and y is the temperature. Write a function f that models the temperature over time, and then we'll talk about that last question in a second. So what we need to do is write a function. For your first step, I really want you to just plug in your intercepts. So y equals a times x minus, what's one of our intercepts? 4. Times x minus, our other intercept is 24. So our intercepts are 4 and 24. That's all we plugged in the first step. In the second step, we can plug in this other point. So the 0 is our x value, the 9.6 is our y value. So 9.6 equals a times 0 minus 4 times 0 minus 24. The one thing that's kind of weird about intercept form is that when you plug in the x value of your point, it has to go in 2 places because x exists in 2 places. Then do some math. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. And 0 minus 24 is negative 24. And we can do negative 4 times negative 24. And this looks kind of funny, but that is 96. So then we need to divide both sides by 96. 9.6 divided by 96 is 0.1. Okay, we figured out A. Does that mean we're done? No, we have to write an equation. They want it to be a function f, so they want us to write f of x, but really, if you just write y equals, we now know that a is 0.1, x minus 4, x minus 24. So again, if on the first step you only plug in your intercepts, it's going to make it easier to rewrite the equation at the end, because all you have to do is go back and say, okay, I'm going to take this equation that I started with. Now I know what A is, replace A with that 0.1. Now, on this one, it is asking us for the second part of the problem, what's the coldest temperature? Because we have a picture, you can look here. What does it look like the coldest temperature is? It looks like the coldest temperature is negative 10. If you actually wanted to find that out for certain, you would need to find the halfway point between 4 and 24, find the axis of symmetry, plug that number in to get the y value of your vertex, and that would tell you for certain what the exact coldest temperature was. On your assignment is 2.4 worksheet number 1. It's just one side, so look for the sheet that has this in the bar at the top of it. It's just that one side. On numbers 1 and 2, I want you to pick one of them to do. They are both vertex forms, so pick one of those 2 problems to do. Numbers 3 and 4, same thing. I would like you to pick one of them to do. But then for 5 and 6, you need to do both of them. So this used to be a 6-problem worksheet. We just cut it down to a 4-problem worksheet. Is that okay with you all? Are you sure? Positive? Okay.